Right, hello. So hopefully this goes out. I don't know if the chat is broken or not yet. I will find out in a moment. Because quite often when I start live streams now, the chat just window doesn't start up. I think it might have done it. Let's have a look. Pop out chat. All right, Brighto. All right, Flazzy. Let me just close that and see. No, I'm going to have to use the pop out window again. Actually, no, it is working. It's just slower. So I'm a bit hot and bothered today, just simply because it's one of those days where, although it's not that warm, the humidity is really up, and I don't like that because you can't lose heat. But yeah, this one seems to be working so far, Thomas. I won't pick up a gun, because if I do that, then they will terminate the stream. Yeah, that's the exact problem, Fluzzy. It's muggy, isn't it? Because like when it's hot, but it's dry weather, it doesn't bother me. And when it's, cold and humid, it's not too bad. But when it's sort of that middle heat, where you just, anytime you do anything, you just feel sweaty. Yeah, so good news is I should be back to work quite soon. But obviously, if the India variant cocks everything up with COVID, then I guess I won't be. But, I'm hoping I can at least get some shifts in before lockdown again. Because there was at one point... all right, that's good, Chocolate Muffin. Who did you get that through? Because you have to pay, don't you, for the site that it was advertised on? Oh, that's interesting, Brighto. What mask is it? Hello, Richard. Hello, Stug. Hello, everybody. Yeah, exactly, Fuzzy. We had been having a lot of rain recently, but today's been not that rainy, and I think that's the problem. Like, yeah, we had on Tuesday loads of thunder and lightning, and then obviously it was nice and cold for a day or two after that. Well, I don't really play Battlefield 1 much. I've played a bit more Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1. Bad Company 2 is one I really liked. All right. Yeah, basically, if on a stream you even handle a firearm now, or what they deem to be a firearm, they just immediately take your stream down. It's like some sort of bot that does it. So that's that. Tell you what, I did enjoy watching Weapon Collector's thing last night. The re-upload of that sort of Halloween ghost stories thing. That was good. Battlefield 3 and 4, I'm a bit on. Because I don't think they were enough different from Bad Company 2 for me. Oh, I know the one you mean, yeah. I don't think that took them from the outside, though, did it? I thought that was still an internal cheek filter. But yeah, so what I'm hoping, obviously, as I said, is that I'll be back to work soon, and then I'll be properly back to work. Not because what happened in November is they stopped. Yeah, there was a lockdown, wasn't there, from like the end of October till the end of November. And then I went back to work at the start of December, and then I was off one weekend with mumps, and then after that they locked down again. Unless you're on a range where it's authorized drunk Russian, no, you'll go to prison. But you certainly can't fire a live pistol just randomly in your house. You can get the filters on eBay, History Nerd, but like I said, they're not going to be new production filters because they're from Commie Czechoslovakia. I've not actually seen one in person, Brighthole, but from the pictures, I thought it was an internal cheap filter. Well, the PBF is certainly better than, say, like an M10 in terms of cheap filter design, yeah. Steve, I'm glad you're enjoying reading that. I'm sort of in the annoying thing at the moment where it just feels way too warm here. I think it's probably because there's not been any rain today and they were forecasting it. Battlefield 5, it's not very historically accurate, but it's all right in terms of fun, which is probably more important. All right, bro. I won't have time to watch it now, though, because I'm doing a stream, but I'll see if I can watch that at a later point. But yeah, so obviously on the news, there's all the Israel-Gaza stuff, which I don't really want to go into on a live stream because it's not a very nice thing, is it, to talk about on a live stream? Obviously, it's bad about any innocent people that get killed on either side. But yeah, main thing in the UK is that we're easing lockdown tomorrow, which is good. But because the Indian variant's spreading here now, it's probably too late. It's probably only going to be a week or two, and then they say, "Oh wait, no, after lockdown again." Oh, yeah, I wish it had been here, chocolate muffin, because I prefer the weather like that probably. But it's not warm here as in pleasant warm. It's humid warm. You know, where you just sweat really easily, but the sweat doesn't evaporate. It's that kind of thing. Thanks, Doug. Your story was interesting. I don't think I heard that one last time I watched that video, because I think last time I watched that, I must have gone off it before it got to the end, and yours was near the end. So was that like a UFO type thing you think you saw? Oh, I've got Bluetooth headphones for that. Chocolate muffin, where you just put the ambient noise on, you get to sleep easily. Annoying thing with the ambient noise tracks though is sometimes you're listening to them, you know, they're like the 5 hour long ones, 8 hours, whatever, and you get like 30 minutes in, and then there's some random noise where obviously if somebody just filmed, you know, a storm outside the house, like, you know, you either have a police car go past, or one of them had like some guy just hammering an electric guitar for some reason, like out of nowhere, like in a Blizzard sound video. It's like, oh, if people put this in there to piss you off, or if they actually just, you know, it's just where they've been recording and somebody's walked past the building or something. But so I'm assuming that they're now going to have to stop loads of them, like kids going to the school, are they, because of infection risk? I don't get what you mean, history nerd, by that. Is it you or the area? I don't know. Maybe drunk Russian, but you'd have a hard job sealing the filter screws into it properly. Yeah, the closest I think I've ever come to seeing a UFO, Stug, and it's a bit like Mike's story where it wasn't a UFO, was it wasn't a hot air balloon we saw, but it was like one of those Chinese lantern things, which is like a flame inside a kind of paper thing that floats because of, you know, like the hot air. But because somebody had one of those flying past, and obviously the wind was catching it at different angles, you basically just had a bright light in the sky doing that, but with no sound. But I really don't know, Oliver. Does the rubber look intact? Because if the rubber looks intact and that's just building up on it, that's probably just some sort of moisture-y stuff building up, isn't it? Hello, OK9. Apparently it is for a lot of people. Sadly, not where I am, because then the temperature might drop a bit. Right, Johnny, it's a mixed thing here, because tomorrow, most of the restrictions are gone as of tomorrow, which is normally a good thing. You know, it means I get to go back to work. Lots of people I know get to go back to work if they've not lost their jobs. That's good. The problem is they're doing that right as the Indian variant started spreading here. So mostly because the government didn't stop flights when they were told to about 4 to 6 weeks ago. I don't know now, Oliver, in all honesty. Right, Peach? Well, the FM53 is 40mm, the M50 isn't, so it's better in that way. Isn't the FM53 a lot really closer to a C50? In the case of the C50, it's basically a C50 with better like radio communication stuff, isn't it? But for a regular person, a C50 would be absolutely fine. What do you mean your GB5 filter is run down? Why did you run it over? Yeah, I've never seen anything, Peter, that didn't get ID'd, and then not turn out to be anything all that interesting. They're better than nothing, Northern Dawn, apparently, but not from what they think as good as the other variants, if that makes sense. So if you've had a vaccine, you're at much less risk. You're still at more risk than you would have been from the other variants. The main problem seems to be with the Indian variant is that it spreads really fast. Like it, outspreads the Kent variant we had, which got everybody recently. I don't know if you can catch this one as well if you've caught another variant. Who knows? The problem is as well with a lot of this is don't really ask the governments what they know because they can never agree. That's why I find videos on the actual science stuff a lot more interesting with Corona, because they're not getting the science and then trying to put a political message on it. They're basically saying this is bad or this isn't so bad, as opposed to, well, this is bad, but we want to tell you it's good. Yeah, right. So it could be that, couldn't it? I was sort of thinking, could it be like human fleshy stuff? But yeah, not a very nice thought. But if it cleans off, it cleans off. 50 times more infectious. I thought it was 50% more infectious, but if it's 50 times more infectious, that's a lot more worrying. They did bring in micro lockdowns before, and it didn't help anything in the UK. So I think now it's got here and it's spreading. Really, all they can do is extend the lockdown. I don't really want them to do that. But as said, the problem seems to have been that the government, as always, did not listen when they were warned over a month ago to take more action. It was the whole, it will be fine thing, and then it wasn't. Yeah, like I say, what we had, Odrin, with the thing was next, the Kent variant basically spread really fast when the other variant was basically finally dying down. Because then it was like, the restrictions in place for the first variant didn't really slow down the Kent variant. So again, you're now having a problem. We're opening up from the Kent variant stuff, and now there's more infectious one out. But at least there's vaccination. There's that. Oh, exactly, Flazzy. So the day the football stuff starts, the government come out and make a statement on it and all that. Yet when it's something that is going to affect the livelihoods of the majority of the people in the country, if not their lives, oh no, we can't be bothered to look at that yet. We'll make a decision in a week, and then that won't come into effect for like another week or two. Yeah, only thing they did right was financing vaccines. That's been about it. Yeah, that's an interesting birthday present, isn't it, Brighton? It would depend on the shape of a dog's face, I guess. I don't think a dog would like wearing a GP5. But yeah, I've been doing those like lateral flow tests twice a week, and why they're not meant to be very accurate. I've come up negative every time. But funnily enough, the government website for them keeps crashing today because I guess loads of people are trying to fill their reports in before starting work again tomorrow. Peter, the Serbian M2s are okay. Like, I like the face piece of the M2 and everything. The only problem with them is they're made from the same sort of rubber as the M1, which is that rubber that can mount. But my Serbian M2 hasn't melted, so my M2 is fine. I still need to redo a video on the M2. But yeah, my M2's been fine, but apparently they can mount. But in terms of the face mold, I quite like them. They did in World War One and World War Two have horse masks, Nick. And in World War One and World War Two, I think they normally had like dog respirators for like combat dogs. But what you'd probably find would be more useful for regular people now is getting one of those like NBC room type systems or NBC dog crate kind of thing. Well, like I said, it's not a good idea to put an old gas mask on your dog, so don't do that. That's animal abuse. David, from what we understand, they're not, sadly. Like, with most diseases, that'd be the case, because this one keeps mutating because it's spreading so fast. Supposedly, antibodies from one strain aren't going to do very much from another strain. You know. No, okay, now from what I've heard, it's some sort of chemical reaction that can happen to them. Because originally I always thought it was like a sunlight thing, like if they were in the sun too long, but apparently it's not. But I'm guessing it's if there's something in like the atmosphere. I don't mean like the Earth's atmosphere. I mean the atmosphere around, like with air, humidity, and all that. There's chemicals that I don't know if it's like if you live in certain proximity to like a road or whatever like that. Like vehicle, maybe petrol fumes could do it because petrol can damage rubber. So whether it's like gasoline, petrol, diesel fumes, if you live too close to a road, do it. I don't know, but mine's thankfully not done it. But there's been people who have bought some, kept them in a sealed box that's not airtight, but sealed so nobody could tamper with it, and they've still had it happen apparently. I would still say, as I said before, the pewter gas mask is the worst in the world, and I've put it sort of away now, so I'm not going to reach and get it. But the one where the straps don't even stay on because they're held on by a friction. Yeah, well, Claire, I think everybody basically realises, didn't they, that if our government did what New Zealand or Australia did from day one, or as soon as they were warned by Taiwan or whatever else, that we'd have had, far, far less deaths, especially because we're an island and we can actually stop flights and things like that. But, the problem is that every time they seem to have something suggested to them, they seem to pick the worst of the two options they can do. I don't really know much about the Ratnik system, Bright, other than it's like modernized Russian equipment, isn't it? Basically, as far as I'm aware, yes, that is the problem. The more it spreads, the more chances it has to mutate. But yeah, that was the problem, Peach. And like with this Indian variant, this is why it's been so frustrating. So COVID had been going on for over a year. You'd think they'd have learnt lessons at that point. And then all of the scientists are saying this is seriously worrying how fast it's suddenly spreading in India. So we ought to stop flights from India. The government didn't do anything for like a week or two. Then they said, right, we'll think about it. Then they said, okay, we'll stop flights from this date. So if you want to come in, get in before then. And now it's spreading in areas where there's a high amount of people from like India and Pakistan because they were obviously there visiting their families or whatever, came back, that sort of stuff, and started spreading it. And again, I don't blame them if the government said you can come back in, they came in, because I guess most people would want to go and see their family if they were allowed back in or whatever. But it's just the point that this is so easily seen coming because it's happened every time. No, chocolate muffin, I don't believe so, but I have seen a very weird video of somebody who made hamster aquariums. Well, that's also the other problem, isn't it, Claire? And it's like, this isn't a problem with Ireland itself. It's just the idea that they've also done the thing of, well, you can actually catch a flight from somewhere else to get to the UK, and then you can get around it. And they're like, oh, people, be honest, they won't do that. It's like, oh, no, people, if they need to get there for a job or something, will do that. I knew you were joking, chocolate muffin, but it's still, there is some weird stuff like that, like fish tank habitats for hamsters. All right, Daniel, I haven't seen you on in a while. Yeah, I suppose the Ratnik thing is probably the same as like the British Virtus program, isn't it, Brightold? Just basically getting a load of new gear. Yeah, exactly, Richard. The whole thing is like a farce, isn't it? Of like, what could you do wrong as a government to maximize the spread of coronavirus? Right, we'll do all those things. I don't actually know much about the L85A3. I know the L85A1 was god awful. The L85A2 fixed nearly all the problems, so I assume the A3 is fairly good, but I've never shot one or anything. It can be weird like that, WTO says. I'm assuming if the filter's been open, it's because it's quite a well-made filter and it's not been anywhere with too many contaminants in the air, so the charcoal's not really had to do much. You could Kentucky shine it if you've got a C50. Yeah, because the C50 has a 40mm mount, right? So all you would do with a self-contained breathing apparatus, well, I guess you'd have to have probably a different exhale cover, I'd imagine. All right, today's remit, who was CM037? What my advice is, Peter, is if you know somebody who needs a hug, give them the hug, because I'm sure people hugging each other is going to do less damage than let's not stop flights, and all stuff like this. Just for anybody who's asking the same comments over and over again on a joke, well, I'm just not going to bother reading them. You're not going to get blocked for something that's obviously a joke, but at the same time, if people are asking proper questions, I want to answer those. Is PS10 NATO the S10 filter, WT Oasis? I swear that's the S10 filter. Is it the one that's like a black plastic cylinder with like a grate on the one side of it? Well, MK, the good news seems to be I've at least got a job to go back to. The problem is, because like I was saying, the India variant's spreading in the UK now. I bet I won't be at work for long before they have another lockdown or they put more restrictions in that mess with work and all that. All right, your mother, you still staying safe? But yeah, it's that's the main issue here, is obviously because of variant spreading. It's just the the main issue is how long is it going to be before we're in the same situation again? I'd assume so, ACM, but don't forget Scotland and Wales, I think it is, have had different rules as well, and Northern Ireland. So I can never remember sometimes which rules are for which places. KCM, in theory, you can sleep with a gas mask on. Whether or not I'd recommend it, I don't know. You'd probably want at least one with 2 filters on it, because if you had a single filter mask you rolled over, you could suffocate yourself. Yeah, this is the weird thing. I think as of tomorrow, masks are still mandated, aren't they, in like inside shops, I think. All right, MK, I hope you're in a state where it's not been hit too badly by Corona, or like then restrictions ruining people's jobs because of Corona. Yeah, I really don't know, Blaine, about how like they do it on all of them, because I know with like a lot of masks, if you're like not a civilian buying them like second hand or from a shop that might have a license to sell them, you can generally, if you're like a government ordering them, you can generally demand quite a few extra bits with them, can't you? Like, we want to use it for this, can you supply it with this? And the answer is normally yes. But the problem is when you're just a civilian, it's basically, well, this is what nobody else wants, so you can buy it. Well, Shmew, unfortunately, unless you go to a car boot sale and find an S10, or maybe one of the few remaining army surplus stores in the UK, I don't think you'll find cheap S10s anymore. Yeah, well, the thing is, Claire, it's like my dad is somebody who has never really had many illnesses in his life. And that's weird, because my dad is literally somebody, who I think had measles when he was a young kid. But I think after that, he said, like, he very rarely gets a cold. And I mean, I honestly know that, because obviously I've lived with my dad for years. And he never seems to get colds, has never had the flu kind of thing, has never had any proper illnesses. So he's one of those people that, just seems to be able to not get ill. But, sadly, a lot of my family don't have that sort of genetic trait that he has. I guess, yeah, Steve, that the spring pressure valve is just, the only thing that makes it more of a positive pressure setup rather than the negative pressure setup. Brighton said he got a UCP mag pouch. Do you mean bad camo? NAD? Because NADs are like balls, aren't they? Balls camo? Yeah. What it's designed for, it's perfect for environments. Yeah, with UCP, if it gets muddy and stuff like that, UCP can actually look good. Dyed UCP actually looks good. Yeah, Claire, that's the thing. But yeah, it's just a sod's law thing that he's one of those people that could probably not take any precautions and be fine. Then some people might take all the precautions in the world, still get the infection on like the slightest chance, and then die from it. Yeah, I've played Arma 3. I like Arma 2 more though. That gets asked a lot. I was thinking earlier about maybe replaying Arma 2, but I thought because we're coming out of lockdown soon, I was like, do I want to reinstall Arma? Have I even played Arma 2 on my current system? That's, I think I must have done, but... Yeah, weirdly, I can't think that I've played much Arma 2 on my current system. So it'll probably run quite well on here. Because, like, I know the main problem with Arma 2 was, and I think it's a thing of Arma 3, but not to the same extent. Arma 2 has that weird kind of, like, fog distance, draw distance thing, doesn't it? And it's one of those games where once you put it beyond a certain number, even on a really powerful rig, the game just starts stuttering like crazy. But hello, everybody joining. Yeah, well, that's the problem, MK, isn't it? A lot of the problems are mental health things. Like, apparently in the UK, the amount of people drinking themselves to death, and, like, probably from other drugs as well, has gone, like, massively through the roof. Yeah, Fallout New Vegas is really good, your mother. The only problem I find with New Vegas is, like, I think Fallout 3 and 4 have this problem as well, is the more you play it, the more likely the chance is that your save file will get corrupted, and then eventually the game will start crashing constantly. Which particular one? Not smoking, either alcoholic. The GP5 bags are very, very basic. They're basically just like a cotton bag with two little things. The PBF bags I really like, because the PBF bag is like kind of a classic kind of book satchel type thing with poppers on to seal it. Yeah, I'd say so, Steve. But annoyingly, I've never found those for sale separately. Like, my M10 came with that, and I loved it. That M10M came with it. When I've bought M10 bags separately that I thought the ones, it's always like the cheaper kind of tarp material ones. The problem is, Cornelio, so it's hard to change my recommendations because I don't know what's available at good prices. Well, like I said, I only did it for one video, Yomada, but I can see why the FM53 is really well liked. But again, for most people, you wouldn't need a mask that good. Because, I think that's the problem with a lot of things, is if somebody says, I could sell you an FM53 for loads of money, or they could sell you something that's perfectly functional. I don't mean like a GP5, but something that's perfectly functional for less. Most people wouldn't get the benefits from an FM53. If you're really into top tier equipment, then yeah, you'd want an FM53. But it's kind of like when people talk about body armor and all this. It's like, are you really expecting there to be a situation where you're going to need all of the perks of like the top tier stuff they make for special forces soldiers or like really elite units of well-funded armies? If not, you're probably not going to get all the benefits from it. That's not good. WA Oasis if you're leaking charcoal. Which bit's Sanctuary, Peter? Is that like the starting town where the robot is? Or is that Sanctuary? Or is that called something Hills? Or is that called Sanctuary Hills? I can't even remember now in Fallout 4. I like Far Harbor weirdly the most in Fallout 4, but I also like Point Lookout the most in Fallout 3 because I kind of like the more horror-themed sort of atmospheric places there's lots of people running around with guns. Well, I don't have Netflix, but otherwise I might. I ought to play it all properly, your mother, because didn't they finish Black Mesa? Because I think I didn't play all of it at the point I bought it because of the fact they hadn't done all the Zen levels for it, and I didn't want to play it and then not have a complete game. All right, Dan? I'll check, Peter, because it's Concord, isn't it, like the next town along? I always find that funny. It's like, oh, they're named after places in the UK because it's America. Or they just put new in front of the word. It will if it's too big, not smoker. Yeah, I'll definitely have to try and play it again then at some point, your mother, when I'm in the mood to play it. I only kind of worry about streaming games because I got a strike I couldn't appeal for doing a gameplay video before, because apparently YouTube could not differentiate between a game and real life. So, you know, with the bots, I kind of worry about that. Yeah, that's the thing, Claire. That thing is nowhere near like the same quality as the proper Israeli masks. Sadly, I don't have any Greek masks. I know isn't there a Greek mask called the Cobra, which is a bit like the M65, M15, M84, all of those, but well, if it's got asbestos in it, you can't bin it, WT Oasis. You have to dispose of it properly. I'd assume where I am, we have a green bin and a blue bin. The blue bin is recycling. The green bin is like general waste. I think probably green bin, if that's like the same as your black bin, because I don't think they'd like you chucking things with multiple components into a recycling bin. It's generally for like card and plastic, isn't it? Let me just reply to somebody because just replying to somebody because they do the thing of people could PM me all day when I'm not streaming. Right, Dead Money, I would say, is the most annoying of the DLCs. Like, I think Dead Money's quite atmospheric, but those fucking beeping collars are just annoying. Yeah, that's all right, Dan. I'm glad you're okay, and obviously, yeah, your family's important and all that, isn't it? Yeah, things aren't too bad for me. The good news, Dan, if you didn't hear when I said like a week or so ago, I've still got my job by the sound of it, and I should be in on a shift within a week now. But the problem is with the Indian variant, I don't know how long that might last again, because it seems like it's the same shit as before, you know, the several other times. You're like, you know, if you survive the first lot of layoffs, oh, that's all right. We're going to reopen and you can come in. Oh, wait, there's another COVID variant. That's probably going to shut everything down. No, that's completely different to me, Nick. So in our area, in Sherwell Council, we get, right, in our area, we get brown bins are food waste bins or garden waste. So you're meant to put like mown grass in there, leaves, you know, like leftover foods. So it's just kind of like a fertilizer type bin. Green bin is general like household waste, like you put a black bin bag in, that sort of thing. And the blue bin is the recycling bin. But yeah, it's confusing, isn't it, that different councils in different parts of the UK decide to use different colours? Because I think because my granddad's in a different council, his bins are different colours as well, and I have to check that every time, you know, I go to put stuff in his bins, I'm doing it in the right one. But here's the thing, Matthew. Is the Indian variant going to start spreading in all those places soon? Yeah, well, that's the thing, Welsh lad. Dan, the amount of people that have had the jab will certainly slow it down. That's like the best thing possible, even if it's not 100%, you know, effective, efficacious, whatever the word they use is. The problem is how fast the Indian variant seems to spread, and you know. A pink canvas bag for plastic bottles. I've never seen that. Yeah, but that's what it's like in Oxford, most of Oxfordshire, Oliver, and that's what I've just been always used to. That they, you know, green bins, because I remember back when you only had a green bin, all the waste went in the green bin, you know, and then they brought the brown and blue bins in, so you had to sort your rubbish. But it did mean you had more bins, which was the good thing, because you know. And then when they delivered, I think it was our brown bins, they delivered us 2 by accident. So we just keep one, you know, permanently in the back garden and one out the front ready for the bin man so we can swap them around. Yeah, I don't know, Nick. Maybe because councils want to be clever and think they're being funny. I don't know. I mean, like Sadiq Khan did spend £7 million on like a little kid's drawing that was done by a proper artist, apparently. Well, that's the problem, Matthew. But yeah, it's because the big worry was with Corona from the beginning was if you had too many infections at once, whereas lots of people might survive with hospital treatment and oxygen and things like that, they would then die due to lack of medical resources, and people might die, because of corona patients swamping the hospitals if they had something else wrong with them. That's what you're basically seeing in India, was that kind of like worst case scenario everybody was worried about in lots of countries. That was sort of the thing you first saw from Wuhan on all like the videos that came out of Wuhan, was, like the people just crowding into the hospitals and like dying in the streets. And again, like the good thing was in most of the world that didn't turn out to be what happened with corona, because even with governments, messing stuff up, they did at least for the most part kind of think, oh, we might need more hospital capacity, But there we go. David Hockney sucks and should be in a rest home. But yeah, my favourite parody of that is, have you seen the Sanic one? Let me get it up if you've not seen the Sanic one. 1 second. So yeah, the Sanic one is funny because it fits so well. But yeah. If it wants to focus, there we go. I have shotguns before, but not very often, if you mean like cartridges. Basically, I think it was a 20 gauge or 20 bore shotgun when I did the shotgun, and a 22 long rifle, but it wasn't like a Ruger 1022. It was, like a very basic bolt action 22, because we used to know people that had like a farm, so they had basic guns in case of foxes and things like that. And this was back, I think, even before Labour wrecked a lot of stuff. So, it was kind of like, although it was after like Dunblane and everything, it was obviously before they got even more shitty about guns. So it was more of the thing like, as long as people were sensible, then nobody really cared. Yeah, so you've got a lot of space to social distance there, haven't you, Matthew? Best cheap gas mask. What do you mean by cheap? Name me a price, and I'll see if I can think of anything that fits that price. But yeah, I was really laughing at that. I saved an entire folder of it because basically, obviously Sadiq did the thing. There's a load of pictures there, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Most of them won't focus, but yeah, basically because he did the thing, didn't he? This is the original thing for those of you that don't know, and I know you could go up and look this up on Twitter and not look at it on a tiny screen. But brilliant work, apparently. 7 million fucking pounds of taxpayers' money. That was. 7 million pounds. Yeah, so Sanic. Piss Take is also a good one, or Piss Takey. Well, the US would be a really cool place to live, but Jay. But the problem is that emigrating to the US is probably not as easy as a lot of people in the US think it is. I mean, maybe Biden would let me in if I said I was, I don't know, in a war-torn country. I don't know. Sadly, I can't get. Yeah, sadly though, Chocolate Muffin, you can't get refunds from how your tax money is used, can you? Now, I've got a Mannlicher 1886, or a Mannlicher 1886, how it's pronounced, but I can't show you on a stream because usually we'll take the video down, but yeah. I've not actually got a proper Gorka suit. I've got Bars suits, and they're all right, but most of the time in the UK, it's just too warm to wear them, even in the winter. Yeah, well, imagine that, Peach, in London, spending money on the police to prevent knife crime, maybe improving transport for London, all of that stuff, fixing potholes. No, waste all the money on a shit sign. Right, Ty? But, yeah, this is the problem, WC Oasis. This is why I guess lots of people are kind of correct when they say taxation is theft, because if you make a decent earnings, you're paying tax. There's also regressive taxes like, you know, petrol tax, VAT, all that stuff. So you don't have any choice to pay those, and the poorer you are, the more they hit you. You know, that basically, if you're a poor person when you fill up your car, the tax is, you know, the exact same as if you're a rich person filling up your car. I mean, obviously, the more petrol you put in, yeah, the more it's going to cost in terms of tax. But the point being that you pay this money, and then a lot of it just goes to stupid stuff. You know, a lot of it went to. Didn't we spend billions on PPE that didn't work in the UK as well? Because one of Boris's mates had like a PPE importing company or something. So, I'll use all this money to buy your PPE. Yes, I did see that, Tyre. So they literally let out, was it 2 illegal immigrants that were going to be deported because a mob literally surrounded the van saying, oh, you can't take them away. So basically, at that point, you're saying mob rule gets results. But yeah, for masks to recommend if you're in the UK, because I don't think you're going to spot S10s, FM12s, and all those for cheap or affordable money. Genuine MP5s, and when I say that, I mean Polish MP5s, not French ARFAs. There is a big difference. Make sure you check that up, because a lot of sellers will sell ARFAs as MP5s. I'm not going to really recommend you anything GOST, just because of the fact of how annoying it is to get a, you know, filter for it. The cheapest thing I can think of that I would genuinely recommend is get a Finnish M61 and then get a 60 to 40mm filter adapter for it. They're normally less than a £5, and they're not like even 3D printed things. These are normally like proper metal cast ones, or proper, you know, injection molded plastic, where they you know, made them for armies when they were like modernizing their masks. What does he talk about in his crossbow videos, your mother? Like, they go super far, or they can't hurt people, or what? I think the only reason I didn't watch him, your mother, was because he was one of those people, I think, that had a Myra mask talking about how amazing it was and how every other mask is junk. So it's like, oh, you've been paid to say that, haven't you? Hopefully, Bright. I mean, the sooner everybody gets vaccinated, the better, you know. And again, I don't think people should be forced to be vaccinated, but then I don't think those people should have the right to say, oh, I want all of this sort of, you know, exceptions to the rules if I choose not to have a vaccine. Surely that's the point of having a choice, is that, you know, you weigh up the options and decide which option you'd rather take, rather than, well, I want the best of both worlds. I would assume not smoking either alcoholic, because they adopted the M61, which was a clone of the US M9, back when Britain and America used 60mm filters. Because I'm trying to think, Britain didn't go to 40mm properly until probably the 1960s of the S6. America didn't go to 40mm really until the M40, because the M17 was cheek filters. So when Finland bought M9s, essentially 60mm was the standard then. Oh, so basically break your crossbow and risk injuring and killing people, your mother, is what he's saying. So if you shoot a bolt and it bends like that, or it's a carbon fiber bolt and it starts splintering to the point it's going to explode when you next shoot it, and you'll get fiberglass shards all in you, like in your face. You'll look like Pinhead from Hellraiser, just with carbon fiber in you. Oh no, that's perfectly reusable. Yeah. Sadly, that's the main problem with bolts, is just how much money it can be if you break them. You know, if you regularly shoot a crossbow, and every now and again you have a bolt that just basically breaks the point it's not safe to use anymore. And that's sadly why, like, crossbows are quite expensive to shoot. Well, Dan, if you've not seen, I did a load of videos with Steve, or like Steve lent me stuff to do videos on, which was really helpful. Like PAPR units, FM53s and stuff like that. At the moment, though, I'm kind of in a situation, like I said, where I'm hopefully going back to work soon, so stuff looks all right for me. However, like, I've been trying to be like nice to some of my friends that, you know, like, have lost their jobs during furlough, you know, having mental health issues, you know, all that sort of stuff. Because for some people, it has just gone to shit, really, with the pandemic. You know, like, you could have had a good job, and now all of a sudden you find out you're out your job, you're not going to really get any compensation for it because the government closing your job down, and then they're in a really bad situation. Right. So other than the people who like doxing people for obvious reasons, we won't name their channels, but, you know, doxers and paedophiles. One of them is going to prison, at least, on you know, they have YouTube channels, but they'll be in prison soon. Probably, yeah, I just say the ones that shield products with no info on them, you know. The actual Prepper's Shop, though, in the UK, Claire, is all right, because Prepper's Shop had proper 3M 40mm filters. I bought some over a year ago, before COVID, didn't do a fucking video on them. I know where they are, though. I'll have to get them out this week and actually take a look at them on video. I thought, I'll buy that. That would be great for doing a video on these, you know, a place with in-date, in-stock filters in, where they seem to have quite a lot in stock. Let me buy some and have a look at them. And then when they arrived, I thought, right, I'll get a video done on them in about a week. Completely forgot to do it. I found them the other day when I was clearing stuff up. Not really not smoking either alcoholic. What I mostly do is wear boots until I wear them down to the point they're useless and then throw them away, you know. Then buy some more boots. That's basically my attitude to boots, you know. I know some people would collect boots and all that, but the only pair of boots I've got that are kind of interesting that I wouldn't want to like scuff up or ruin are East German Parade Jack boots, just because, you know, it's pretty cool having Parade Jack boots. But again, I wouldn't really want to walk around in them, you know, because of the connotations of wearing Jack boots. But, you know, they're cool things. What's drop shipping, Claire? Is that where they order from somewhere else to your address, but you've bought the thing through them? Is that drop shipping? Because I've had that before, I think, with eBay sellers, where I buy something and then the item's delivered via Amazon. It's blatantly somebody's like ordered it for Amazon Prime. Yes, I do, lol, although it'd be technically Serbian, wouldn't it, rather than Yugoslavian on the date when it came out. But I'll redo a video on that because I had done a load of video on Serbian equipment. YouTube got really funny at one point on Serbian gear because of, I guess, like, lol, you know, memes. So I got a strike on one of the videos regarding Serbian stuff, which I think I got appealed on that one. But I just took them all down and thought I'll re-upload them and be super careful, you know, like what I say. Because that's the problem with YouTube. They retrospectively input rules in place. So say you could say something on the internet that didn't offend anybody back when you did a video. Then the social justice woke mob decide that something is now offensive or racist. Basically, what they end up doing is retrospectively flagging videos. Yeah, that's definitely shitty, isn't it, that? Because, yeah, when I buy something, I expect it to be basically dispatched the next day. Like I was saying, the problem is military surplus stores in the UK, Shmute. The one near me is gone now. And that was a good one. I think the other one nearest to me is gone, which is also all right. Well, Matthew, with a proper ROC post, some of the problem is they get too warm anyway, rather than too cold, or you can just put an electric heater in them. With ROC posts, they tended to get too warm, like a lot of bunkers, because it would have to be a really cold place outside for the coldness like permeate down into it. Most of the government stuff, if you look on UK bunker design, was trying to keep them cool, not trying to keep them hot. But ROC posts have two vents, and from what I understand, it's just literally a case of turn on an electric heater if it gets cold. You know, that way you don't have to worry about fumes. If they're proper People's Liberation Army gas masks, David, they're good, because the PLA for, like, the Chinese Communist Party, for their own troops, makes really good equipment. A lot of the stuff they export isn't of that quality. Yeah, that's good ACM and the other person saying if they have one close to you. But like I said, sadly, all the ones near me have closed just because it was too expensive to not just do eBay, essentially. Yeah, well, exactly, Shed on Fire. You can get military-grade stuff that is total trash, can't you? Like an L85A1. And, various other things that various armies have issued at some point, which is totally useless. Or you can get the thing where, it's the other way around, where somebody advertises something really kind of the crap equivalent as military grade. It's like, no, the military thing is far, far in advance of this. Right, Ryder. I sadly think the default pyro mask isn't a real mask. Some of the other pyro skins have masks that look a bit like it. Like the default pyro mask looks a bit like that, doesn't it? Like the GP7, if I remember right. But I don't think there is an actual mask that looks, in reality, whenever I've tried to find one, that looks like the pyro's like basic mask. But a lot of the custom heads, like bear in mind I've not played TF2 in ages because I didn't like how the game kept changing. A lot of the custom like masks or head you could get for him are real masks. Like wherever I've put the thing, there's a GP5 mask, isn't there, for the pyro? I think it's called Mr. Foster because Killing Floor. So you can get this mask for him, and this is a legit mask, but again, that's not the pyro's default mask. Yeah, well, I think that's the problem, OK9, is basically human body heat not escaping from a bunker. Especially if you have the issue of, people being down there for a long period, not being able to go up, with ventilation being very limited because of the risk of, fallout dust or whatever getting in. Yeah, I quite like Killing Floor 2, Your Mother, but the problem I had with both Killing Floor 1 and Killing Floor 2 is they kept doing DLC updates for them, which kept making the game bigger and bigger and bigger, and it kept using up more and more of my HDD until I was like, I don't want this on my HDD anymore because of, like, how much room it takes up. The only thing I do Shed on Fire, I now and again do sell stuff where I don't want it anymore. And I'll try and like sell it as fairly as possible on price, cheaply as, like as cheap as I can to not be ripped off selling it, and so it also hopefully moves quickly. But I don't like order stuff in to sell. When I sell stuff, it's literally because I've sold stuff because I've done videos on it. I don't really have a need for it anymore kind of thing. I want to make some space. So, for example, I had at one point 3 DP2 Soviet DP2 ionization chamber radiation detectors. They're not Geiger counters, but if you know what a DP5 is, a DP2 is an older version. I bought 3 because the DP2 came with one of the most insane control sources in any radiation detector ever. The problem is, a lot of the time, they basically, when they demilitarized them, they took the Czech sources out, or the EU didn't like them being, shipped the Czech sources in. So the first DP2 I bought worked completely perfectly, but didn't have the Czech source in it. The second DP2 I bought worked completely perfectly, didn't have a Czech source in it. The third DP2 I bought, when I asked a Ukrainian seller, they were able to find me a DP2 with the original, wax seal still on it, all the original, manuals issued with it, like the Czech logbooks, all of that. I bought that. That kind of works, but the contacts aren't very good because I've got a complete matching kit and manuals and that. I'd keep it. And that one, because it was sealed, I opened it up. I got the strontium-90 source out, 1.4 Rontgen per hour after something made in the 1960s. So still very powerful, not as powerful as some of the DP2s, which apparently had 50 hour an hour sources in them. Literally, you could die putting this in your pocket for a few hours kind of sources. Anyway, the moral of the story was that I ended up having 3 DP3s. I've already sold one that stopped working for some reason. I don't know why. It just, I couldn't get it to power on properly. So I advertised that as, not working, and eventually somebody bought it, saying that they'd have a go at repairing it, and if not, no worries. It's a cool thing to own. The next time I sell a DP2, I generally try and do the thing first, or if I know people in real life who might be interested in stuff, I generally offer it them at mates rates first, just because, that way you not kind of know it's going to somebody who really wants the item. But yeah, when I sell stuff on eBay, it's kind of just every now and then when I want to clear up some space and think, will I really be doing videos on this stuff again? And if the answer is probably not, then that's when I sell it. Which customs? If you mean UK customs, I've not really had much problem with surplus, although I know people have had problems sending it out from their customs in their country to me. Well, I do know some customs get really funny about stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Nine. Yeah, there's a lot of factors like that, isn't it? What machinery is running in the bunker? You know, how many people are down there? There's a lot of factors. What time of year it is. I think both my S10s are size 2. No, I've only got one S10 now because I gave one away. Yeah, I think it's a size 2, my S10, and it's a size 2 FM12 I got on CT12. They had a couple of different masks, ACM. So the standard mask issued to East German soldiers was the Schum 41, which is the mask that looks a lot like a GP5 but isn't a GP5. I really don't know about American customs. You'd think with America being allowed to own a lot more stuff, you wouldn't have trouble, but I really don't know. Because you sometimes get like weird like ITAR type rules, don't you? And sometimes the customs people can't enforce them properly. But anyway, what was I saying about? So Schum 41, which is the Master GP5, basically was derived from, was the standard East German Army infantry mask, as far as I'm aware. The Schums, you know, the monkey mask, the one with the forward-facing optical lenses, that was definitely issued to like artillery crews, sniper crews, vehicle drivers, things like that. They'd have used the MM1 in terms of vehicles, and again, maybe the Schmus would have replaced that at some point. There's photos of East German soldiers and border guards with PBFs on in some old pictures. There's also pictures of East Germans with M10Ms on. And I put it away, but the other day I had my M10 cover that's an East German strict arm cover for the M10. So basically they use loads of different Warsaw Pact masks, but primarily Soviet masks and a couple of Czech masks, I think. But the main thing was they basically used similar equipment to the Red Army. You know, it depended on who the mask had to be issued to, was basically the design they used. No, I've not played this war of mine. That sounds familiar. Maybe I have it on my Steam list and have never played it. The Z56 is a West German mask, isn't it? So it's 40mm NATO, or 40mm DIN. I think it'd technically be 40mm DIN, but a NATO filter will go in that fine. Yeah, you basically have to hope nothing goes wrong if you have to change a filter in the field. But for the person saying about radio, I've got some comms gear and I've never really used it much. I think because every time I've tried to scan the channels near me, it's just really boring chatter I was able to pick up on. You know, like maybe supermarket security guards, and that doesn't really interest me, like listening into that. You know, and with police stuff, it's all like Tetra encrypted now, isn't it? So you can't listen to that with the right sort of radios. And because I live near an airport, I'm kind of paranoid that you'll start fucking with flight traffic if you're playing about with them. Yeah, that sounds about right, Ben. Make it as complicated as possible if it's Germans. Because, you know, like I've said before about German engineering, as much as it can be very good, they also make stuff like this. And stuff like this is, you know, make a basic ionization chamber. Whoops, we made this. You know, that can be the problem with German engineering when they make something as complicated as this to do a really simple job. For those of you that haven't seen the video on this, is essentially a CDV 715, which is really complicated and prone to breaking. So yeah, The only nice thing is it runs on a single P cell. But yes, Strahlenstörrat, or however it's pronounced. But yes, Germans and their overcomplication of everything. You know, like I've said, those are superior meters, other than the batteries, which I still need to find a manual for to tell Steve what they were. Cheers, yeah, there's quite a few people I know are into comms gear. It's just I've never really got into it. If you can get one for €18, get one for €18. Generally over here, they're like £50 or euros, roughly. But Z56s seem to be one of those masks where now and again they turn up in all right numbers and you can get them fairly cheaply. Other times it seems like they're never in stock for ages, and like the one or two sellers that have them on eBay can like hike the prices up because they know if anybody wants one, they'll have to pay that. No, I did not see an Italian machine that was made to cure syphilis. Is this a modern thing or is this an old thing that like killed people? Like, you know, like a radiation machine. I did listen to that song you sent me, Brighto, on that other stream. And yeah, I guess folk song. I mean, maybe to me, my accent hearing isn't good enough to be able to find like the particular accent funny or not. But like you're saying, to somebody in Poland, it might sound like a funny accent. But which one W2 Oasis? I have quite a few Geiger counters, so good cheap dosimeter. Sadly, you're not going to get a good cheap dosimeter unless you get a dosimeter pen that still works and the charger for them. Right, what's your budget for a Geiger counter, Claire? And then if it's £200 or less, maybe a GMC 500. If it's a bit over £300, a Radius Scan 701A, unless you're buying like old Cold War stuff that you can still sometimes find in stock. Let me do you mean the one that has the band on it, Steve? That was the Bereg. Let me get the picture up, because my Bereg has got put in a drawer somewhere and I can't find it. Bereg IRI1, I think it is. Let me get up a picture of a Bereg and you can tell me if that's the one you're thinking of. So this is a Bereg, if it will let me link the picture. So this is it open, so you can see the that's the Bereg. So that doesn't really give you a proper dose reading. What the Bereg does is it's basically a Geiger counter with green for background levels of radiation, yellow for slightly above background, red for anything really that's radioactive at all. So the Bereg isn't going to do a good job at telling you, you know, because if it's red, it just means it could be a chunk of uranium or on the opposite side of a room. But the Bereg will pretty much max out and keep beeping until the radiation field gets so intense it goes to zero. Because I've got it to go to zero on the Bereg before with like strontium 90. You know, like some of the ones that other Geiger counters don't cut out on the. Oh, do you just mean a skin graft, Brighto? Assume you just mean a skin graft, don't you? Because they used to do that for like soldiers with bits of their face blown off, skin grafts. Watched a film that I saw ages ago about a skin graft gone wrong the other day. Has anybody seen Cronenberg's Rabid? But Rabid is an interesting film. I've been watching a few Cronenberg films again recently, and they're all basically like sex body horror films, aren't they? Essentially, Cronenberg. I was like, oh, all of his films are linked like that. I can see now. Oh, exactly. That's the thing, Peter. Is I've had Geigers on before, clicking at like background levels. You know, where they click maybe once every 2 seconds, and people are like, oh, it's clicking. It means there's deadly radiation. It's like, no, there's always radiation. All right, let's have a look at the Italian machines. It's not even Italian, is it? So yeah, it's skin grafting basically. I think that's what you're about, skin grafting. Looking at that, but yes, skin grafting is interesting. Right, it's a grey one with 3 buttons on the front. That's probably the GQ GMC 500, I imagine, Nick. Not Nick, WT Oasis. I think that's probably the GMC 500. That's like the grey rectangular one with like a Nokia style display and 3 buttons, as in one that... Is it in the thumbnail for How to Survive Nuclear War? If it is, I can tell you what it is. If not, I'm not going to watch the video now. I didn't click that. I clicked search your videos. Title contains nuclear war. That video, though, How to Survive Nuclear War, is from 2017. I don't think I'd have had... Are you sure it's that one from then? Because I wouldn't have had that Geiger back then. That doesn't surprise me, Nick. It's interesting, all the stuff old people did. Well, I mean, old people in that, not like old people as in like your granddad type thing. I mean, like, you know, yeah, I've got a case of the syphilis. And the funny thing I find is Victorian medicine. I've got a little bit of pain, doctor. Oh, here's some opium for you. Oh, now I'm tired. Snort some cocaine. Nick, you're probably right there. It probably was the SOX01M, which is basically broken. So, or like they used to put lead on their face sometimes, didn't they, as well? Like lead and arsenic was one of those things that they used to like not realize was quite dangerous to have near your skin. Yeah. What is the strange sound in the background? There's the computer fans, but normally you can't hear that because of the noise cancellation on the microphone. All I can hear at the moment is computer fans. But it's possible there could be like an annoying ringing sound I can't hear because I'm too deaf. Well, what about it? There is a Swedish Type 32 gas mask, but what about it? I wouldn't recommend you use one, but they exist. Yeah, exactly. They didn't. So speedballing was a very Victorian thing, apparently. I'm not actually mining Bitcoin, Litter Picker. It's Ethereum it's mining. But, yeah, it's probably just the computer fans. But when I've asked people about that before, a lot of people say they can't hear it. It might be, if it sounds high pitch, it might be like one of the smaller fans on the motherboard or one of the GPUs that makes a higher pitch whine when it spins up. Let me look it up. Okay, 9, I'll tell you if I think it's any good. Because it depends what the range does. Right, so that's the one Myra sell for more money, isn't it, that one? Right. What does it come with? Because it looks like it's got a couple of things in it. Is one just a laser pointer? What comes? Oh, ultraviolet torch and a laser pointer. They've also included a genuine uranium glass marble, I guess, so you can see if it goes slightly above background. Right, for that money, the range is very poor. It maxes out at 999 microsieverts per hour, which is basically 1 millisievert per hour, and 1 millisievert is 1/10 of a Rontgen, basically. So I wouldn't recommend it on that basis, just because that's not really a good enough range. I mean, it will definitely tell you if something's wrong and you need to evacuate from an area. But bear in mind, for money not too far away from that, you can buy a Therapy, and a Therapy is really good. All right, and Volto? Yeah, that seems crazy, doesn't it, Nick? Like, literally fill your wall cavity up with razor blades. Oh, here's a question, Jake. If you're going to mine Doge, where can you mine Doge directly? Because I've only found Doge mining on sites where they don't actually mine it directly. It's like you mine Ethereum or whatever, and then they just translate it into Doge at whatever their exchange rate is. I'm assuming there is a way of, like, is it the same as Litecoin mining Doge? I quite like the screen on the O1M Peter, but the issue I found with the SOEX was, again, like mine broke eventually, you know, like the Geiger Müller tube in it got a bit battered. I had to replace that. The replacement tube didn't work quite right in it. But the main thing was just the detection range isn't very good. Yeah, that is weird, Nick. That's kind of creeping me out now. Just like a body horror thing of, you know, accidentally breaking a wall and then getting sliced open with rusty razors. Yeah, and then he said that he'd use it on a SpaceX thing, because I think Musk does the thing where basically he tries to price manipulate things depending if he's buying them or selling them. The only thing I can imagine, Ben, is in some videos, people could hear the aquarium back when there was an aquarium. So there was actual water stuff then. But in a lot of videos, I think you can just hear ambient noise and think that sounds like something interesting when it's really not. Yeah, have a quick look, Jake. I'm not going to be on very much longer because I've already been on over an hour. But if there is a place you can mine Doge directly, I'd be a bit more interested in doing it. But yeah, when it's kind of like you're mining Ethereum, but then you're making less money from it because how they convert it. That's what I thought, Brighton. It seals on like the neck bit, doesn't it? The padding. But yeah, in some old videos, there was an aquarium, so you could probably hear the filter humming and like the water trickling where, you know, like the air pumps and all that were moved and the filter was moving the water around. But that was just literally a fish tank that had a fish in it that lived like for ages. So all the other fish had died. We said like, right, we're not getting any more fish. But then this one fish lived for like another 5 years. So it was one where, you know, like all of the fish tank budget was essentially used by one fish. There was like a grumpy old, you know. There is a water cooler in the PC. Yes, the CPU has got a water cooler on it, but I can never hear a liquid of water coolers. Maybe some people can. For me, I always hear the fan noise and more of it pumping it than anything else. But yeah, I can't remember, Brighton. I think it's a check mask from what I can remember. I'm sure this has been mentioned loads of times before, and then we've gone, yes, that's what it is, and then we've immediately forgotten again. I imagine, though, that wouldn't there also be like syphilis and all that on their razor blades as well, though? But yeah, they probably did the same thing with all their needles. You know, because rich people back then did shoot up morphine all the time. You know, the cheaper people had laudanum, the richer people had the morphine. Sometimes, Peter, as well, it really depends on your speakers as well and stuff like that. The stuff when I always start going crazy is, like I said, when I'm listening to an ambient noise video and then something is very faintly in the background that isn't what's meant to be in the ambient noise video, and a lot of the time it is actually something there. It's just that, you know, like if it was somebody recording rain on their roof, it might be like a car stereo as a car drives past, but that can be weird. I find shipwrecks kind of interesting. I'd never really want to dive down there and look at them personally because, you know, deep water is kind of like a nope thing for me. Tomorrow, Dan? No, not really. There's a video I want to start filming tomorrow, but you'll see what it is when I release it. I hope you'll find it interesting. Yeah, Ben, that is exactly what will happen if you buy NBC suits. You can never get them as small again as when they were put in their packet originally. Right, I'm just waiting to see if Jake comes back on. Unless the guy saying pizza dog is the same person. Is it? Let me just search pizza dog in case that's actually No, I don't think that's a Doge mine. But there's a restaurant near me, apparently, called Pizza Dog. But that's it. And personally, I don't have dogs on my pizza. Yeah, the Oob One suit. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I said to Piotr he could have it back. So it's submechanophobia, right? Again, why couldn't they just call it subnautic phobia? Um, yeah, I like Mark Felton's channel. That's one of the channels, like, now and again I'll binge loads of his video in a day and then I won't go back to for ages. But I do like Mark Felton's video, especially when when Britain nuked America twice. That's an interesting video. Because Vulcan. Yeah, because from what I understand, Jake, although I think it is possible somehow to mine them directly. Whenever I found guides saying how to do it, they never do it. Like, oh, you'll need a mining app. Like, yes. And then it's like, you'll need to find a pool. It's like, yeah, so which pools are there? Oh, wait, you don't mention. So something biological, I guess. But yeah, the main thing that I find really creepy, Nick, is cave diving. Like, I would never do that. It's like they put fucking Grim Reaper signs there, probably for a reason. But it's just, like, I'd much rather, if I had to dive somewhere, I'd much rather dive in a shipwreck than a cave. Yeah, well, that makes sense, Chris. Like I said, a lot of them I've seen seem to just be the articles where they've almost like copy and pasted the article with the name of a different crypto on it to just try and get like advertising hits. But yeah, like I said, I mainly just mine Ethereum now with my GPU, and I'm not actually using it for anything because I get a decent enough hash rate with it, and my CPU isn't too bad for mining. So I don't have the CPU running mining now, but I sometimes leave that on as well. Oh, potholing though, Claire, is at least not submerged caves, isn't it? Imagine potholing, but then potholing in caves that are flooded, where you can drown. You know, that's why cave diving is just like nope, nope, nope. It's like, oh, it's pitch black and you're running out of air. Yeah, Nick, that was the one they eventually barricaded the cave off, didn't they? But yeah, I remember that. It's where he went into a tunnel shaped like that, didn't he? Kind of like that, and he got stuck with his head down like that. Yeah. Yeah, as you said, Junior or JR Odom, caves are bad enough on land. Imagine it underwater with limited air and limited light. Yeah, so buried with concrete, I guess. But yeah, like I've been to some caves, but they're like, you know, the sensible caves, as in, as long as you've got a hard hat on and a couple of light sources, they're not very scary, you know. At some point, Jack, the film fanatic, I'd love to. Sadly, I don't think lockdown is going to be ending anytime soon. I know officially, as of tomorrow, you can book flights to other countries, but lots of countries have us on their exclusion list, and lots of things are going to be cancelled, basically, because the COVID situation rapidly changes. Well, that's interesting, Claire, yeah, I suppose, but... Alex Saint, you are not banned, but I have not seen... oh, sorry. The only question I can see looking up is the one that says, have you heard about the Challenger 3 being the new main battle tank for Britain in the future? I mean, that would be cool. But I thought a while ago they said they didn't want Britain to have tanks anymore, but have they realised that we do need tanks now? But I'm guessing YouTube is just hiding your question, probably because you're not allowed to talk about tanks anymore. I don't know, I'm just saying maybe that's a thing. Yeah, I agree with you there, Ben. I would definitely rather trust my life on a rebreather, like a good rebreather system, you know, with mustard gas and whatever else in the air, with like a hazmat type suit thing on, than go cave diving. No, sadly I don't, Jack. A couple of people who watch your channel do a lot of metal detecting, but I don't know if there's anything near me worth doing with it. Well, exactly, drunk Russian, but tell that to governments who love cutting money for everything except their mates. Well, I suppose a new computer's quite cool, isn't it, Nick, if it makes it much faster at targeting or whatever. But yeah, Is it a new caliber gun, or is it just like a slight improvement to the old gun, like via the auto loader or whatever else? They've been 120mm, haven't they, the British tanks, for quite a while anyway. And as far as I'm aware, most modern tanks can kill each other without much issue in terms of like armor. They've not really upgraded much in the last 20, 30 years. Oh, some people would definitely get a thrill out of cave diving. But, you know, some people, some people have very strange ideas of fun, though. That's my point. Yeah, thing is, Nick, I don't know if there's much point, like, upgrading tank shells. Like, surely there's going to be more probably developments done. Oh, it's raining now. There we go. It's raining. It's going to cool down. Can you hear that? It's raining. It's quite heavy rain as well. Oh, the air is cool already. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, there we go. So for those of you saying it should rain, there we go. The rain started now. There's literally a breeze of cool air coming through now, even without the window there being open, just because the ambient temperature is suddenly dropping. But there you go. That's good. So for those of you that didn't see, there is. Was there a random CD? Yeah, it's just like a burnt CD, isn't there? Yeah. So for those of you who just wanted to see, it's going to be pitch black out there, isn't it? But there you go. It's raining. Yeah, Nick, it's not been today here, and like as a result, it's got really muggy. You know, where the temperature's not much above 21°C in most rooms of the house. It's just the humidity's gone up and up and up all day, but it's raining now. So despite the fact there's water coming down, it's actually going to get cooler. All right, I definitely will look into that, LX8, because yeah, I do like challenges. But yes, I will look into that. But I did not know about that, so that's cool. So yeah, not that I'd ever get to drive one or anything, but you know, it is kind of cool to go. Britain has a new tank. I mean, I don't know with VX. Depends. I suppose it depends how the VX is being used. Like, if the VX was being dropped on like ISIS just after they'd finished murdering innocent people, and then it was like watching a film of how they reacted to being VX, that might be interesting. I'd say that would be more fun than cave diving, but in general, I don't think nerve agents are fun. They're kind of horrible weapons of mass destruction. But you know, I suppose with weapons, it depends who they're being used on. Like, if it was Hitler, you know, like the worst terrorists in the world, you know, or stuff like that, I don't think most people have much against them being killed, you know. I just, in general, don't think it's a good thing to wish violence upon people, but there we go. Right, I'll be off now. Have a good evening. I've been on 1 hour and 22 minutes tonight, so you can tell I actually enjoyed the conversation tonight. But yeah, thanks for that caller. Yeah, I've had the opposite problem, Brighter, where you have very light rain, you put on a raincoat, suddenly it clears up and gets sunny, and then you're too hot in your raincoat. All right, see everybody. Have a good evening, and you know, have fun.